I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, January 9th, 2019 to order. Can we have a roll call, please, Mr. Alexandrovich?
Yes. Mrs. Witkowski.
Here.
Mr. Nielsen. Here. Mrs. Evans.
Here.
Mrs. Larson.
Here.
I am here. Mr. Gamble and Mr. Lewis are both excused.
Thank you. We have a quorum. The meeting has been properly posted. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 is recognition of the Friends of Franklin Public Schools. And Dr. Miller, if you'd join me. Tonight, we're very pleased to be here to honor our Franklin Police Department auxiliary officers. These are a very important group of volunteers in our community. I don't know if the community realizes that they are volunteers. And I was first really introduced to these volunteers when I took part in the Citizens Police Academy. And then I realized how much they really do for the community. And just to give you a little information about what they do, I pulled up from the police department's annual report from 2017 some information on our auxiliary officers. In 2017, they volunteered just over 1,550 hours cumulatively between the officers. And just to pull out some of the areas they volunteered in, just from their meetings, there were 110 volunteer hours. And ride-alongs with our police department were 417 hours that were volunteered. For Franklin Public Schools, they volunteered 245 hours. And at our Franklin football games, they volunteered 210.5 hours. And then at our civic celebration, 124 hours. And there are many, many other areas, of course, that they volunteer in our community. And some of the hours, I believe, if I recall, you're required to volunteer 50 hours. Is that still correct? And then the rest are all your generosity to volunteer. So first I want to give you a round of applause for all. And we couldn't survive in our school district without those volunteer hours that you offer to us. And I do want to acknowledge Chief Oliva is here to support you tonight. And Dr. Miller, do you want to say anything about Chief Oliva?
I would like to thank you, Chief, for supporting this program and our community. We care very much about safety, and having these individuals among us makes us all feel safer. And we appreciate what you've done and being part of things in our schools. I've gone to football games where it's been inclement and very cold, and these volunteers are there. And it's greatly appreciated. So thank you very much, and we look forward to this continued partnership with you.
Yeah. So we'll both hand these out. If you want to just stay up here when we hand it out, and then we'll have a photo, hopefully. Who do you want to call?
Gary Elkins.
If you just want to stand. Thank you. Thomas Fellon.
Thank you very much. Stanley Bergacki.
Hey, that's good.
Thank you so much.
Joseph Gaffney. Gregory Raspberry.
Brian West.
And Jerry Young. And then we also have Larry Arrowwood, who's not here tonight. So. Did anyone want to say anything about why you do this?
Were you good?
Well, basically, most of us, either one time or another, always have lived in the city, and we just like to volunteer our time to help the city and help the police department, because they can always use the extra help, and it just makes us all feel good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Item 5 on the agenda is community comment. And anyone who would like to make community comment, if you could come up to the table and state your name and address for the record, and also sign in on the sheet of paper with your name and address. And if our auxiliary officers would like to be excused for the evening, that's fine too. We know you have work to do, so thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Do you care which microphone, or do they both pick up?
They're both on.
Angela Beer, B-I-E-R, 9025 South Deerbrook Court.
Hi.
If your plan is to slowly alienate supporters of the district by approving unpopular, unexpected, seemingly unnecessary changes, congratulations, you're succeeding. This time it's the removal of instrumental music education at the elementary schools, announced in a typically paternalistic fashion to students and families as a done deal. Is this yet another step in your master plan to alienate interested supporters in the district? Or were you just hoping that once again, busy parents would be too busy to pay attention? And is this assumption what led the board at your last meeting to approve this change without asking a single question about it? I'm embarrassed for you, so allow me to suggest a few questions on your behalf. Perhaps you'll seek answers to them. Perhaps this will just serve to highlight a problem of your body's habit of ingenuous approval of whatever comes before you. Here's a question. How will we measure the effects of these changes, both positive and negative? And please don't tell me MAP scores, because that's not adequate. What data have we been presented to justify the need for that change, other than comparisons to other school districts? Further, when do you plan to reassess these markers to assure that these changes have actually been beneficial as opposed to changes for change's sake? Have I considered the detrimental effects of cutting instrumental-based music back even further? Ongoing longitudinal research is currently being done at centers including Northwestern, UCSD, and Case Western, and has already shown measurable benefit to children receiving early, regular instrumental music education. Specifically, researchers have shown that this exposure markedly helps to close the achievement gap, a topic about which you did have questions at the last meeting. How has the administration discussed these potential changes with parents and students? Numerous other studies have shown that the majority of parents favor early instrumental exposure for their children at the school level. Are these results applicable to Franklin parents? Who knows? Or should I say, who cares? Why do I never feel compelled to ask these questions. Do I really care about the opinions of parents and students? If not, why am I doing this job? Perhaps you will have questions about some of the assertions I've made. I sincerely hope you do. I will gladly provide citations to my statements, and I will gladly do whatever it takes to stop this further erosion of arts education in the Franklin Public Schools. I imagine that for more than a few of the people present in this room, school, especially the socially and academically challenging later years, was tough. There were probably days when they didn't want to get out of bed, wanted to throw in the towel. For many of us, choir, band, shop, drawing, drama, all those so-called extras are what kept us engaged. Please consider the student you once were, that your children once were, before cutting programs such as elementary level instrumental music education back further. This should not be happening in this district. It's an embarrassment. Any response, questions, or shall I take my seat?
I'm just going to make a comment that this was not a board agenda item for approval. This was not a cut, it was a restructure, and it was not a board approval item. So I just want to clarify that, but thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hi.
Hi. My name is Isabella Barnard, and I'm a student at Franklin High School. I am here today because I was a leader of the Empowered Women Club, and we have multiple members here with us today. And the Empowered Women Club at Franklin High School had a mission, and that was to educate, advocate, and empower students through active participation in school and community events involving gender equality. From collecting clothing for women in shelters to hosting gubernatorial candidate Mary Burke, Empowered Women was a club where teenagers could talk about their feelings, opinions, or even make an uncontested comment on gender and societal issues. These issues included, but weren't limited to, the Me Too movement and its effect on men and women, self-defense sessions on how men and women can protect themselves, and idealized body images of men and women in the media and its effect on us teenagers. One member even shared Empowered Women provided a safe environment, one she felt comfortable enough to speak about her experience with sexual harassment. Some male members shared they joined to better understand the other half of the population and what they can do as men to promote equality. As for myself, despite having a feminist mother, I didn't call myself a feminist until I took control of this club. I learned, like many others in this club, my voice matters and progress can always be made. Despite our success, however, we faced opposition from a couple peers in the administration. Last year, a small clique of males thought it would be comical to send around a petition about an Empowered Men Club, whose mission statement included playing video games and eating pizza. Their only aim was to take a jab at our existing club. When the administration heard of Empowered Men, they told us, Empowered Women, that our club violates school policy because we discriminate against men, even though we had multiple male members in the club. So there we were, a group advocating for women's equality to men, being told that we had to stop our mission because the men were upset. I have, I don't know if it's okay for me to approach, but I will email further. I only have 2 copies here today, but there are 15 statements from the students.
Get it to the Vice President. We'll distribute this for you.
Okay. And then
Thank
I
you.
also have roughly 100 signatures from students throughout Franklin High School about why they support the club and why it should continue. And so that's my couple comments on that. But here we have Katie Myers, who's also very passionate about.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kate Meyer. I'm also a student at Franklin High School. For the well-being of students at Franklin High School, it is vital that Empowered Women is brought back. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they turn 18. Empowered Women was a place to educate and for survivors of sexual assault to have a safe and welcoming space. Being an Empowered Women my first 2 years of high school was a valuable and positive experience. and anyone else in the club would say the same. Women and men alike were able to come to Empowered Women and talk together, learn together, and connect. We covered important issues such as sexual assault that weren't covered in school. Having experienced sexual assault myself, Empowered Women helped me overcome my experiences and finally feel comfortable to speak out openly about them. When I told my fellow club members what had happened to me, I was met with nothing but love and support. In this club, I finally learned that what had happened to me wasn't my fault, it wasn't okay, and it wasn't a joke. That was the support I needed to grow as a student and a person. Empowered Women was such an amazing resource for the students at FHS, and taking away damages the culture and setting at our school. Being an Empowered Woman was the first time I felt safe and welcomed, and as if I belonged at Franklin High School. And I want future classes to be able to have the same experiences and learn from Empowered Women the same as I did.
Thank you.
My name is Lenny Yank, and I also go to Franklin High School. So I want to talk about sort of why I think Empowered Women was such an important club. At school, it's pretty much impossible to go even a day without hearing multiple rape jokes, gendered slurs, and other casual sexism. And even though this is far from the biggest issue we focused on in Empowered Women, it was still a reminder of the sexism that exists within our school and an explicit reminder of just how badly needed Empowered Women is as a club. Empowered Women is a safe space for students of all genders to express their concerns and opinions on different issues, as well as being a way to educate people on experiences they may not have had. The point of this club was inclusivity, which is why it made no sense to get rid of it so impulsively and why it should absolutely be allowed to run again.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bill Lee. I am a sophomore at Franklin High School. I joined Empowered Women last year as a freshman, and I did so because throughout my life I have always felt privileged as a man, and there was so much more that I could do to help support the women of my life. Because throughout my life I have felt that women have helped shape my life, and I want to help support these people. So I joined the club, and in this club I have had many experiences to help the women in my life, and I didn't want to just sit in the privilege that I had, so I joined, and we covered many issues, and I was able to learn about women and support the women that around me, and I think that is such an important part to the lives of the girls and that are in our school. And I hope you understand that I feel that it's important that this is a resource that women have around me, and I cannot speak for women, but I always want to support them. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just say one more thing. So, in the way that we presented ourselves as a club, we had a Twitter page and we had made announcements where everyone was welcome to come to our meetings or come to what we had planned. And we were very active in the school. We participated in Kindness Week, where we put post-its up with compliments and different things where people would feel good about themselves that they could just take. And it was for everyone in the school. It wasn't just for women's rights, women over men. There was none of that in any of our meetings. And the guys who were in our group, like Bill, Lee, and Mario back there, they can attest to how we really included everybody and that we made it about equality. And I think that was kind of lost in how that we were perceived to be discriminatory against men, because we did include men and we were about reaching that gap and being equal. Because if you look in society today, even our government, there's roughly the House of Representatives is 20% female, and we are half the population, and our senators are 25% female, and again, half the population. And I think it's crazy because we have made great strides as women, but there's still a lot of work to do, and shutting down a club like this is not where we are headed. It's not the right way to make that progress. And so this club is really important to many people who aren't here in this room right now, but even the people who are. and we are asking you to please reinstate the club because it has great leadership, and we got Mary Burke to come speak, so that it was pretty cool. And we had teachers who were willing to be there for us and be our counselors and just kind of help lead. And they really, Mrs. Dennis and Mrs. Doucette were great teachers, and they never interjected and gave political opinions or anything like that. They were just there to facilitate a meaningful conversation and be the people that they needed to be in order for us to be who we needed to be as students, because they were kind of a support. If we needed to talk to them about something that was happening in school or something that we saw, they were there for us to do that. And I think that kind of got pushed under the rug, and this whole club got kind of cast aside despite what it has done and what it was and what it can be. So we ask that you just please consider reinstating it, because it was very meaningful to me as a student and to everyone else here. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon Smith. I'm a parent in the district, and I live at 6646 West Charles Court. And I will say first that I'm embarrassed. I've never been here before. Second, I will say that, man, as an adult, it can be intimidating to speak to this board. And these students were eloquent and well-spoken and passionate. And one of the reasons I'm here today at my first board meeting is someone invited me. They put out a post that said, we need to support these students, and that's what I try to be about. I'm not perfect at it, but I certainly try to be about supporting the students. And as I sat there and I listened to these kids, I came to my head, what do I want to say to you guys? It's okay to be wrong. Sometimes we're wrong. And I don't know how we can think that we were not wrong after listening to these 4 kids. It sounds like a program that our school needs. It sounds like their only motivation is to provide an outlet for students who want to be involved in something positive to help not just females, but anyone. And I think about my son, who's had a lot of trouble at the school. He's not a trouble kid, but he's not found his place in the school yet. And I think about all the other kids who have not found their place. And then I heard these 4 kids, and they sound like they're trying to provide a place for kids like my son. You don't feel like you fit in. You don't feel like you look like someone else. You've been a victim of some verbal abuse, maybe some sexual abuse. We're a place for you. So when you think about the various groups that our school has and our school supports, what is it about this group that says we don't want them? So a decision was made to disband their group. It's okay to say we were wrong. That decision was wrong, in my opinion. I think it's wrong in everyone's opinion. And I want to applaud those 4 students for having the courage to come here and speak on their group's behalf. They did it very well. I'm very proud I took time out of my day, which I don't have much, to come here and support them and listen to what they had to say. And I really hope that you guys paid attention to what they said and you give these kids another chance. I think they deserve it. I mean, there's a lot of kids that go to school and do the bare minimum. These kids are trying to do something extra in the positive way, and they should not be told that they can't. Second comment I have is on the elementary musical instruments. I'm not sure if I'm like most parents or if I'm the anomaly, but I saw something come across my email, or it came across my Facebook as, you should know about this, and it said that the musical instruments are going away. What do I think about that? My 6th grader Mason plays the tuba. You can imagine how that practice sounds. And I have to take time out again to get him dressed and race him to the high school for the musical program. It's not an easy feat for a single parent or even a parent who's not single. And then we sit there and we listen to the most amazing music. It's amazing, right? Not all the time. But then I think about how excited my kid is to bring that tuba home, how excited he is to practice, get dressed, how he won't let me forget that he's got a concert coming up, and how excited he is that his grandma and his grandpa's coming. If we take away the music program, we take away a lot of the inspiration these kids have. And then what's next? We're going to take away gym? We're going to take away art? I mean, music should be important. I want you guys to take a minute, think back, close your eyes. When you were 6th grader, I got to believe we all played some type of instrument. I played I did play the violin in the 7th grade and 8th grade, but before that I played the flute, but they didn't call it the flute. It's
Recorder.
yes. And I have a couple of those at home as well. That practice sounded great also. So, I'm ashamed that this is my first school board meeting. It won't be my last. I appreciate everybody who takes the time to hear my comments, and appreciate all these people who took time out of their day to show up and support their causes and these students. But I just want you to remember what I started with. It's okay to be wrong. Doesn't make you bad people. Doesn't mean you're not smart. But I think especially on these two topics, we got it wrong. We need to go back to the drawing board. Parents should not be finding out that you've made a decision to cancel music because somebody put up a Facebook post that says, you guys need to know about it. We should know while you're in the decision-making process, and we should be brought into that process. And as far as canceling these kids' program, their group, did you guys meet with these kids? Did you truly understand what these kids were doing and what they were providing? Or did we just make a blanket statement, that's got to go? Before you make decisions, let's make them a little bit slower, get people involved, and talk to people and help them be part of that decision. I think then you would have a much more friendly audience at the school board meetings. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Taylor Affelt. I am also a student at Franklin High School. I originally came here to support empowered women, but after listening to a couple testimonials about the music department, I felt so inclined to come up and talk kind of about my experience. I'm very involved in most of the liberal arts programs within Franklin High School. I'm in band, pit orchestra, our indoor percussion group that just started out. And when I walk into Franklin High School, I immediately go to the music wing. It seems like a place that, as Shannon spoke, he said that his son hasn't really found his place within school, and it's taken me a very long time to find my place. And I have found my place in the music department, and it has really provided me with a sense of community with so many people with the same opinions as I. And I mean, I don't have all the facts on your decision, but as someone who I started out playing the clarinet, I am now a percussionist, and I plan on possibly going up to getting my PhD in musicology and becoming a music educator. And to see the direction that we seem to be going in, it terrifies me. As someone who is going to be into the real world in less than 3 years, and I'm going to have to try and find a job after college in a place that my parents and the rest of my family already think will get me nowhere, because there's so many cuts in the liberal arts. There's so many cuts, especially in the music program, that it's not really benefiting these kids that haven't found their place. To be honest, I didn't really like music until I really found my niche. in the percussion program. I think so many kids have they've been pushed into so many instruments that they feel a little perplexed at first, sorry. And they haven't really gotten a chance to find out what really suits them. Maybe it's not band, maybe it's not orchestra, maybe it's choir. And when we offer, like at the high school, we offer our indoor percussion to everyone. The musical is open to everyone, band is open to everyone, orchestra is open to everyone, choir is open to everyone. And we give the chance for these kids who haven't found their place in preschool, in daycare, in kindergarten, middle school, they find it in high school. It has taken them 15 years to find their place. And if we cut it at such a small level and we don't expose these kids to the musical department, we don't expose these kids to something that they might continue after high school, it terrifies me. Because where are these kids going to go if they find it, if they think, oh, since they cut it, why should I try? If I'm not going to make it anywhere, why should I try? It terrifies me. I know there are multiple districts that have cut the arts, but my question is why Franklin? Franklin has been on one of the top-rated schools in southeastern Wisconsin. And it's cutting the very thing that I want to go into and so many people want to go into. And you're not necessarily cutting the whole program, you're just cutting it at a small level. But that small level exposes kids to something that may change their life. And kids that are involved in the arts seem to do better in school, seem to do better with their tests. And it just seems like when we don't expose kids to musical instruments at such a young age, we're not benefiting them. We're keeping them from something that they might end up loving. Sorry if I went on a bit of a tangent. There's just a lot of things going through my head right now, and to be honest, my whole coming up here is I'm scared. Like not only physically, but I'm scared for my future. If I end up not going up to the certain degree that I want, and I end up going into music education, which is I want to go into, if I was going to go into music education, I'd want to go into elementary music education, because I feel like if we expose kids to something that may change their lives, you know, some might drop out, but the kids that stay in, I know I've made an impact on. And when we take that away, I feel like we don't give these kids a place to go. Just like Empowered Women, when we take it away, we don't give these kids a place to go, and we're hurting them. So that's all I wanted to say.
Hi, I'm Dana Gint. I'm a parent with children in the Franklin Public School System. And I'm here again to raise concerns about the middle school educational plan. I see that the agenda includes a presentation regarding student engagement. Please explain how is the engagement of the students going to be improved when they have teachers that are teaching new subject areas outside of their area of advanced studies? How many hours of training will and when these teachers start in the new subject area to be instructed to improve the student engagement level at the middle school? In the proposed two-teacher-led house system, teachers will be teaching outside their area of expertise. In case there's people in the audience that are not aware of what the middle school plan is, basically you're going to have teachers that have been teaching math for 22 years. Now they're going to go down the hall to the fancy science lab, high-tech science lab, and attempt to teach science. And then on the other side, you're going to have science teachers that have been teaching science for 18 years requested to go teach advanced math, or, you know, obviously the rigors of middle school is at a higher level math education than third grade math, that they're going to be required to teach something completely outside of their skill set. Research shows that it takes a new teacher 3 years to achieve results similar to their more experienced colleagues in that subject matter. There will be a decline in student performance during this time. How is this plan going to be addressed in the student engagement plan? How is the student performance going to be measured during this time? What is the quality assurance plan? What are the benchmarks or goals that are established to monitor this plan? How much time is going to be allocated to show improvement before the program is re-examined? How will the administration be held accountable for this change if it adversely impacts the school? The communication plan is also on the agenda. The information that has been communicated by the administration regarding the educational changes at this middle school has not been detailed and warrants an informational public meeting for people to ask questions of this plan. I would like to know what input from parents was involved in this educational change to the middle school and what communication was sent to request this input from parents and the public. Input should have been requested from all parents and included in a newsletter, similar to what was done for the 5th and 6th grade camp or the addition of the 4K program. Was something like that included in any newsletter? I know there was an email sent in April that was sent out to titled 5th and grade communication that stated a one-sentence update regarding the middle school. It said each house will be led by 2 teachers. I don't know about you, but I had no idea what even a house system is, and I'm sure there's many other people in the public that have no idea what a house system is either, unless they have older children in the program. And I agree, I want to let you know I agree with the gentleman that spoke earlier that said it seems like the administration and the school board makes decisions and then implements them and does not have public input. I think that's a terrible program to implement. I submitted 234 people on a petition that had concerns regarding the school board, to the school board at the previous meeting regarding this new plan. And there was questions listed and comments from most of those people. And their emails were also listed on the document. I was wondering if anybody has responded to these questions, because people should be able to be informed of the justification of this new education plan at the middle school. I've been informed that other parents have left messages for school board members to discuss these changes at the middle school. The people that I have spoken with said that no school board member has returned their calls. This is true for myself also, except for President Evans that did return my call, which I appreciated. It appears that there's an issue with communication between the school board and their constituents. Can you explain how this is going to be improved with the new communications plan? The school board is supposed to be representative of their constituents in Franklin, but it appears that they are not supporting the request for an informational meeting or the questions be addressed that were requested on the document. This 2-teacher-led house system should be explained to the public to gain more confidence in the school district instead of the present situation, which looks like a problem with communications and transparency. The teachers do not support this plan and have been misrepresented by the administration as being supportive. If everyone truly has the children's best interest at heart, then why not have an informational meeting to gain more support from the community? This is my second request for a public meeting. The first request was recorded and shown on CBS 58 at the previous meeting. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Scott Beglinger. I live at 6887 West Wildflower Court. And I'd also like to follow up on the comments, or the public comment that was made at the December meeting about the middle school 2-house system. At that meeting, serious concerns were raised by your constituents as to the effectiveness of asking teachers who are experts in one subject to teach additional subjects. And in addition to the research and petitions and all the good points that have been made so far, I would like to add my personal experience. It's my understanding that some of the similar changes have been occurring in the 5th and 6th grade elementary schools for the past couple of years. My son's teacher had taught science for several years and was asked to add math to her curriculum last year. This year, she's been asked to add reading and social studies. And in several conversations this year with his teacher, she has expressed that hurdles, the challenges associated with teaching subjects that she's not an expert in, that she's not familiar with, have been a hurdle in providing the best education possible to my son. So my questions are similar to the questions that were just raised. Having this experience in the elementary schools over the past couple of years, what has the district done to determine the effectiveness of asking teachers to go through this type of transition? What has been done to identify what support those teachers need, what works and what does not work? Excuse me, I have a cold, so my voice is very strange. What will be done to determine whether the program that is in place for the middle school teachers will be effective or more effective than what's been done for the elementary schools? We received an email this week from the district that indicates that training for those teachers will begin this spring, continue through the summer, and through next year. Excuse me. Meaning that my son's teacher next year will be going through the same thing that his teacher this year's teacher is going through. And why should these kids have to be exposed year after year after year to teachers who are struggling to cope with the impacts of having to teach subjects that they have not been exposed to as they have for the past several years? The referendum was passed a year before the efforts to plan for this transition started, if my timeline is correct. And it just seems like trying to push that training into the school year that those kids are impacted just seems like a terrible mistake. So those are my questions for the district. My question for the board will be, what will you do to hold the district accountable to see, is this plan working? Are the teachers getting the level of support they need to go through this transition? It's pretty clear to me that despite the objections of your constituents, that this transition or this change is a fait accompli. So what are you going to do as a board to help your constituents hold the district accountable for making this transition successful? Thank you.
Can I ask you, Mr. Biglander, to sign in on that
Oh,
sheet?
sure.
And if you can leave a phone number, please, to be reached for answering your questions. Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other community comment? Any other comment? Hearing none, then we will close community comment. And thank you for your comments. Item 6 is school board announcements. Do we have any announcements this evening? Okay. Item 7, school board calendar. We have a regular Board of Education meeting on Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019, here at the Education and Community Center at 6 o'clock p.m. We also have a regular Board of Education meeting here on February 13th, 2019, here at the ECC at 6 o'clock p.m. Item 8 is reports, presentations, and other school board business. We have 8A, the Forest Park Middle School Student Engagement Presentation. Mr. Miziak is here instead of Mrs. King tonight. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Mrs. King would like to apologize for not being able to be here tonight. She is very much under the weather right now.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yep, so she wanted to apologize for not being able to make it.
And we're going to ask that you sign in also on the staff sheet, please. Thank you. I think we're moving. Oh, we're moving. Yeah.
So first, we'd like to thank you for having us here this evening. Mrs. Greco and I are proud to be joined by a few of our wonderful students, Miss Allie Vance, an 8th grader, Mr. Emilio de la Cruz, also an 8th grader, and Miss Miranda Lopez Rodas, a 7th grade student. In a few minutes, you'll have the pleasure to hear from them. When we plan and prepare for students, whether it's long-term planning through the Coherence Plan or day-to-day planning, we always keep the values of personal growth, stewardship, equity, innovation, and well-being at the forefront of all conversations and decisions. But these conversations often leave out an extremely important stakeholder, our students. We work so hard each day for them, and they are the reason we come to work. We wanted to have their voice be heard. We didn't want to plan and prepare for students based on our assumptions and what we think they might think. We wanted to hear from them directly. You might recall that Mr. Reuter held focus groups last year when leading our math root cause team. In December, we held our first student engagement focus group, and we followed a process similar to the protocol of the math root cause team. In fact, all of our buildings have run similar focus groups as an action step for Goal 1 of our Coherence Plan and the annual scorecard. Our goal is to increase student engagement, and in order to do so, we wanted to hear directly from students. In a moment, Ms. Vance, Mr. De La Cruz, and Ms. Lopez Rodas will provide a bit of their perspective and insight into their experience. They will provide some context to what the process and the questions asked to them were like. So I would like to introduce to you Ms. Miranda Lopez Rodas.
Good evening. When I was asked to participate in the student focus group, at first I didn't know what a focus group was, and the name was very intimidating. So I thought I had to go there so they could teach me how to focus. But when someone told me what it was, I felt recognized, and that didn't happen very often in my old school. After being a part of the focus group, I felt honored and happy. One of the questions I was asked was how teachers can let me know I'm doing good work in school. And I said use unique comments, like that is a new way of thinking about it, or I like the way you did that problem. I was also asked one thing we can do to make the school more interesting, and I said doing more hands-on projects and doing things that are relevant to what we will be doing in the real world. Something I shared that I think makes the school a great place for kids is most kids like movement, and it helps us release stress and lets us have fun. Something I shared that will continue to increase levels of student engagement is I said that when an adult shows interest in your future, like asking about the job or field you're interested in, I think that will encourage kids to pursue their future. I enjoyed being a part of the focus group, and I hope my suggestions are taken into considerations to help the school.
Thank you, Miranda. And next, I would like to introduce Emilio de la Cruz.
When asked to be in the focus group, first I felt a little nervous because I didn't know what the focus group was about. After we were done with all the questions, I felt a lot more comfortable because the questions were not as hard as I thought the questions would have been. One of the questions that was asked was one thing in the school we can do to make it more interesting, and I said to have more hands-on activities for us to do. Another one I was asked was one thing we can do to help you feel you are doing good work in the school, and I said to let the students know what they're supposed to be doing by critiquing their work and by giving compliments about what we did well. Something I shared that will continue to increase levels of student engagement is to have teachers check in on all the students so they know what is going on, like asking us about our personal life and what we do on the weekends. Thank you for listening to what I shared.
Thank you, Emilio. And last, I'd like to introduce Miss Allie Vance.
Hi, my name is Allie Vance, and I am one of the 8th graders at Forest Park that participated in the student focus group. When I was first called down, I was a little bit confused and nervous because I was walking into the room with both my principals, not really sure what I was about to do. Afterwards, I understood the purpose of the group and was glad I could be a part of it. One of the questions I was asked was on how often I receive compliments from adults in the building on my schoolwork, and I responded with daily. No matter if it's once a day or 5 times a day, I usually at least one teacher will compliment me on my work, usually one thing I'm doing good, and another thing I could keep working on. This leads into the next question that I was asked on how adults in the building show that they care about me and my success. I can tell that teachers care about me because they answer my questions as best as they can when I have one, and always help me to grow by giving me new things to work on to challenge my brain. I also shared that to continue to increase the levels of student engagement, it would help to sometimes change up the things we do in class rather than doing the same routine every day. I also shared that when teachers greet you when you walk into their class or talk to you about your personal life, it helps to make the school a great place for kids.
Thank you, Allie. So I'd like to again thank our 3 students. During the meeting, we took diligent notes, and we shared those with our entire school improvement team on Monday, and we'll be developing action steps to address their comments and include their feedback. We also wanted to take a moment tonight to share some of the other great things that are happening at Forest Park that involves student voices being heard. So I'd like to now introduce Ms. Mindy Greco, one of our school counselors.
So one of the things we did is we want to create a culture of kindness at Forest Park. It's a focus of ours this year. And to start that, we sent out a Google survey and asked kids what they would like to see happen to make Forest Park a kinder place to be. And some of the things you're going to see highlighted are as a result of what the students wanted to see happen. Ivan said for years when he was at an elementary school, he was out of the district, he watched kids sit by themselves in the cafeteria, and he said he had just had enough of it. He said, I could no longer watch this happen, so I decided to take action. So Ivan started a group called Take a Seat, and he recruited other students to work with him, and they would go to the cafeteria, and if they notice that somebody's kind of sitting on the fringe or by themselves, a group of students will sit with them, talk to them, and find out things they have in common, and then invite them to do an activity when they are done eating. In this next slide, a girl had come to me, and she said, I noticed that some people have tons of decorations on their lockers. Their friends come early, and they put balloons up and crepe papers, and then other people have nothing. And she said, I just don't want some students to have their birthdays go unnoticed. So she recruited a group of students. This is just a small number of them that will give up some of their free time, and I'll tell them how many birthdays we have that day, and they will create that many posters, and then the night before they leave, they will put it on so when the students come, everybody has some token that it's their birthday, so it's recognized by them. Another group of students came and said that they felt there was a need to bring people together of different sexual orientations in a safe environment to promote respect, friendship, and support. They were the driving force behind the start of the SAGE group. It is going to be modeled after what the high school does, the Sexuality and Gender Empowerment group that will be starting later this month. One of the goals of the middle school from the staff perspective was to increase engagement among staffs and to get to know each other better. And one of the strategies that we have done is to do staff interviews, and then we post them and to ask different personal items about staff members. And some of the kids had looked at the bulletin board, because then we do a staff spotlight bulletin board where the students can look at it too. And they said, oh, do you think we could be the ones that would interview the staff? So they have a list, and it's custodians and food service staff, and everybody's included. And then they will go interview a different person each week. And it's fun. They'll come back all excited to know what the person's secret fears are or something that's on their bucket list. One of the other things that came up is kids were very interested in doing some kind of kindness videos. They're like, oh, we should do videos about kindness. And these 2 young ladies, Charlie and Isabella they took pictures and they took videos, and then they created it. They did all of the editing, and they created a kindness video. We are going to show you just a small snippet of it. It was like 6-7 minutes long, so we'll show you a few minutes of what they came up with. That's okay.
I will pick up trash in the cafeteria.
Kindness matters because it will cheer up people's day. I will lift people up when they have a bad day. I will help and pick up the balls after recess. I will always be kind to other people.
I will help students and teachers when needed.
I will pick up balls at recess. I will pick up after others.
I will treat others how I want to be treated.
I will stop bullying.
Kindness is important because something that you say today can affect someone for their entire life.
I will stand up for others when they need it.
I will smile and greet others in the hallway.
I will compliment people to make sure that they feel good about themselves.
I will be nice to other people. I will give high fives.
So I was in first grade and I was new to the school, and I literally would cry every day during lunch and recess time because I had no friends and it just felt so lonely. And then one day someone came up to me and asked if I would play with them, and now she's my best friend.
I will be nice to people.
I will be kind by opening doors for people when they come in.
Kindness matters because if you're not kind to others, they'll end up doing bad things because they think that they're useless. So you have to be kind to others so they appreciate the things around them and who they are.
We will encourage others to do their best.
I will smile at everyone, and I will sit by them at lunch, and yeah.
So as we worked to create a culture of kindness at the middle school, we had a lot of students volunteer who wanted to help us and be involved. And we've been really proud of them, and there's a lot more activities they want to incorporate into the school year. And then finally, our 7th grade Red House students took on a project to support the Street Angels Milwaukee outreach. They set a goal to put together 100 hope bags that included things like socks and batteries and flashlights and hand warmers and other necessities, and they hit their goal and assembled over 200. They hit their goal at the park and assembled over 200 hope bags for the homeless to be given to. So.
With that, I'd like to thank you all one more time. We appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight and be able to share how we're honoring student voice, increasing student involvement in the Forest Park community, and how we are working to increase student engagement. So thank you again for having us.
Thank you for coming, and thank you, students, for sharing your focus group with us. You did very well. Thank you very much. Item 8B is the communications plan update. Ms. Bowden and Ms. Ellihausen.
Good evening. I will kind of set the stage for what Christy will present tonight, and that is, if you recall back to this time last year, we had partnered with Doreen Dembski to assess and audit current communications in the district, gather in feedback, find our strengths and our opportunities for improvement. On May 20, and she did that through a variety of vehicles, including a survey in which she collected quantitative data, and then she dug deeper through some focus groups to gather in some qualitative data. She then used that basis along with best practices in industry to pull together recommendations for us to consider in a long-term strategic plan. She set some short-term things that we should work on and some long-term items that were of focus, included metrics that we could consider, as well as tactics to deploy. With that, we were able to then begin our process for hiring our manager of communications, which Christy Bowden is on board with us, and she was able then, when she started in the fall, to begin to take a look at that work and develop, take in place in certain pieces of the short term and the long term, along with, of course, what is the operational work that we have here every day. So she's going to give an update. We discussed that when Doreen was here on May 23rd, that there would be routine updates to where we're at with that plan. And Christy will present tonight some of both of those short-term things that have been done, as well as where we're headed into the future.
Thanks, Kelly.
first, I'd like to say thank you for having me and taking this time to receive this communications update. Is it? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me now? Great. So thank you very much. It's been really a great first 6 months here with the district. I'm privileged to be in this position. I'm learning a lot, and I will start by just very briefly talking about the guiding vision for the plan that was set when I came on board. You know, really what we're looking at is being proactive in our communications with the goal of building mutual understanding between stakeholders, working to build trust, goodwill, and relationships, and to demonstrate stewardship in our community. In the plan that you received from Valley and Doreen, there were some strategies listed. It was a 3-lane plan, if you will. The first lane being staff communications. And the strategy that I focused on over the last 6 months was the idea that, you know, our staff are feeling a little bit of information overload and inconsistencies in how we're communicating with them. So that was the first goal that was presented to me. Secondly, the idea of communicating to families through consistent communications channels and establishing good protocols for parent and guardian communication was the second goal set. And then lastly, in that third lane, there was discussion about clarifying the district's identity, building the district brand story, and aligning our brands overall between the schools. And then also we talked about establishing stronger relationships within the community. This last goal really aligning with the coherence goal number 6. So from that was our 3-year plan. Just a very quick overview. What we did was we put together what we're calling our annual scorecard. So within those 3 lanes, what I really wanted to do was drill down and understand the communications that we're doing currently and how they can be improved and then continue to be utilized. So the Franklin Find is a newsletter that goes out to staff monthly. And that is a place where we feel like there can be some improvements made. These are the last 4 months of that publication. We did change some things this year regarding how we're delivering this message as opposed to School Messenger. They're now going via all user Google email. It's easier to access, it's easier to find. And they're also being housed on the staff website page. In terms of the layout, we really wanted to add some white space, enhance the visual appeal, and work through the content. So what we do now is give an update from each of the district departments, and we're working together to make sure those updates are cohesive and relevant to our staff in a timely manner. This is just a screenshot of the staff webpage. Right now we're doing some tracking on the usership of this page. What we want this to be is a portal for our staff to get to any materials that they'll need. I think that we're getting there. I'm working with Luann Zielinski, the head of our information technology department, to make some better gains in this area later in the year. In the second lane, I focus on family and community communications. We have a number of existing vehicles that we are utilizing. The weekly bulletins go out via email on Fridays. Dr. Miller and I have worked out a schedule of providing letters to the community about every 8 weeks. We are consistently updating our website, our Facebook page, and we have the community newsletter that goes out about quarterly. It actually goes out 3 times a year, but that goes through the city newsletter. So in these examples, the upper left is a weekly bulletin. The middle is a letter from Dr. Miller at the beginning of the school year to families. And then lastly is the updated layout for opening doors. Really what I did was took a look at the existing communications, worked to make them cleaner, more succinct, easier to read, easier to follow. Regarding the website, we are continually making updates. This is a screenshot of the page that was added upon approval of our 4-year-old kindergarten. And then also, there are just a number of image updates and content areas that are continually being evaluated and adjusted to stay relevant. The left image here is just a shot of our Facebook page. I will go through the metrics on some of these vehicles shortly, but I'm pretty happy with the engagement that we are getting on our district Facebook page. We are seeing an incline in follows and likes, real steady. We're at 1,700 people following our page currently. And then I shared our story page of our district website that was recently rewritten and updated. That third lane was really focused on positioning the district to the community at large. We have a lot of work that's been done by the administration regarding, a district mission, our vision, what our values are, very much strategy work in place. Currently, we have our community pride survey that is out getting feedback from our constituents, and we're going to utilize all of that information to develop a brand platform. I mean, we have good branding in place now, but there's definitely a better opportunity to tell a story, a more compelling story about the people within our district and the work that we're doing. So, as I mentioned, I have done a lot of evaluation in the 6 months that I have been here. As a matter of fact, I really spend the majority of my time understanding what we're currently doing, what's working, taking a look at how we can make some changes as we move forward here. But I want to take an informed approach to what we do long term. So I've spent a lot of time in our Google Analytics. I've spent a lot of time in the background of our Facebook page and YouTube page, just understanding where people are coming from to get information from us, when they're coming to us, where they're spending time, like on our website. So I can just lead right there. From Google Analytics, what I did was I took a look at from the first day of school to, yesterday. And I just kind of plotted a random day that looked pretty average, Tuesday, October 23rd. I tried to stay away from when things were kind of happening in the district, just to give a look at a regular day. So what this chart is telling you is that on October 23rd, there were 2,600 users who came to our website and actively perused it. The 7-day 8,000 people, so from the 23rd, the 7 previous days saw 8,000 active users. And so then the month look from the 23rd, so the previous 28 days, would be 22,000 active users at our site. What I need to do is evaluate this compared to other district websites. So I don't have that background, and that's my next step, is to really understand what those numbers mean in terms of what we should be expecting. This is a look at the top 10 pages that are visited at our website from the beginning of the school year until earlier this week. So our parents and students are spending the majority of time at that parent and students links. There's quite a bit of resources available there, so that's really great to see. That second line item is the homepage, so that's why it's blank there. You do see that the staff website is the 4th most used page, so we are looking at that as we consider how we continue to use that page to communicate with staff. So this is a look at our Facebook metrics. Up in the upper left, that is a show of our continuous gain of page followers. We were at about 1,500 in September, and we're up over 1,700 today. So, you know, really my approach is to continue to get good content out there to bring people to our page. The chart on the upper right is a look at total views by day. So where you see those spikes, as a matter of fact, right in the middle of that chart, that big spike there was the day after 4K was approved. So we had quite a bit of people engaging with us at our Facebook site, excited about the 4K program. Those little dips in between each of the peaks is, generally speaking, weekend times. So that bottom chart is showing the number of people that we're reaching. You'll see this is only an organic chart. We don't currently spend any money on really any online advertising or promotion through Facebook or any other social media. We also don't do any paid SEO or SEM work with our website either at this time. But here again, it's just showing the engagement. And so what I did was I pulled up the posts that created those peaks that you saw in the previous charts. So these 3 posts are really highlighting teacher engagement, student engagement. The top right is a video that was done, and then an article that was written and published in the local news about the football players working with a 90-year-old woman in the community and helping her, doing some volunteer work for her. The middle post there was an update on some winners of some music programs at the middle school level. And then the bottom post was a pretty cool project that our art teacher at Ben Franklin put in place with her students at the high school and her students at Ben Franklin. So this little girl is a kindergartner, and in September, these students were asked to draw a picture of like a fantasy creature that, you know, they might have fun playing with if they could bring that creature to life. And what our Mrs. Kraft did was took those drawings to the high schoolers who had a 3D art unit going on, and they made little stuffed animals of the pictures that the kids drew, and then right before Christmas brought those in and gave them as little gifts to the children. So they were so excited to see their 2-dimensional drawings brought to life in this 3-dimensional way. It was a great learning opportunity for both kindergartners and high schoolers. Also garnering a lot of interest is just strict updates. One of the most engaged with posts was the update to the homecoming parade schedule when that needed to be rescheduled due to potential weather concerns. And then again, the 4K program was announced, and that was a big hitter for us. And lastly, videos are really performing very well. These were 2 videos that were posted. One was a thank you from students across the district. The other was the first Saber Roar that was put out by our student newscast team at the high school. And these really were great engagement posts for our community as well. So in terms of measurement of the Friday bulletins, those weekly bulletins are the primary way that we are communicating with families currently. What I did was I just pulled 3 different looks from School Messenger, which is the software that we use to send these weekly emails. I just pulled one at the elementary school level, I pulled one at the middle school, and then one at the high school to show you that we are evaluating the delivery of these communications. So for example, Ben Franklin, this was a post that was put out in November. It was sent to 740 emails. It was delivered to 526 inboxes. The reason for the gap there is duplication. We take out any duplication. And then also there would be families who may have blocked our email or, you know, it's an inactive inbox at this time. But primarily the reason that drop is for the duplication, taking out the duplication. This particular communication was opened 313 times. So we're looking at an open rate of this weekly bulletin of 59%.
A question?
Yeah.
So like duplication, like a husband and wife might have the same email listed on the account, is that what you mean?
Yes, that's right. So where there's, there are emails listed for each parent. There's a first email and a second email, and then there are additional emails. And what we do for this type of communication is sent to the first and second emails and then drop off the remainder.
So this was for the month of October, you said?
November.
November? So then you'll look to see how December goes and you look to continue to close that gap then?
Yeah, so it isn't necessarily that these are bad emails, it's just that we are trying to condense who we're sending these to make sure they get to the right people.
Right.
So these 526 people are the people who have a, I'm sorry to say it, 526 email addresses are number 1 and 2 email addresses for each of our contacts within each family that would receive this.
And it's supplied by the parent at the beginning of the year?
Yes. Mm-hmm. This is
Maintained by the parent? They maintain that
yes.
on their own?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We do get calls. I mean, there are times that families, you know, what happens a lot actually is like a high school parent will block our emails, but they also have an elementary school student or a middle school student, and they don't realize that when they blocked the high school communication, they're blocking all communication from the district. So they call us and we bring them back into the communication. It's very easy to do. So this was the most recent communication that I grabbed. It was an update on the 2019-2020 schedule for Forest Park students. And here you can see we had an open rate of 65%. And then what I did was I took an example from early in the school year. This was in September. The high school sent out a communication talking about a simulated crash event that was done to impress upon our juniors and seniors the devastation of drinking and driving or being under the influence and operating a vehicle. And the reason I pulled this one was I really kind of wanted to show that, you know, you have a schedule update, which feels like a really important communication, and so families are opening it. 65% of families are opening it. But even these that are, you know, less time sensitive or crucial, they're being opened as well. So we have a pretty consistent open rate across all of our communications in the school messenger portal.
So what's normal? 58%? I don't know. Is that impressive?
Yeah, well, coming from the private sector, that is awesome. I mean, we usually look for like 10% or lower. So I don't know, Linda. I am new to this this industry, and that's the work that I am setting out to do. I need to work with like the Wisconsin Public Relations Association and the National Public Relations Association to better understand what we should be expecting. That's the comment that I made on like the website tracking as well. I come from a different background, so that lens is not relevant. So that's the learning that I'm currently doing.
So I would imagine if you know which emails are being opened, to get the percentage there, you would then know which ones aren't being opened.
Yeah,
Would
so.
that be a population you'd want to target to
Yep.
do maybe a survey to say, what can we do to help,
Yeah.
engage a little better?
Yep. So that report details actually shows each recipient, whether or not it was delivered, and then whether or not it was opened. It shows blocks, it shows opens, and we can even dig further and look at click-through rates as well. So there's a lot of good information that School Messenger provides us for making informed decisions. So I am putting together improvement teams to help inform some of this. And the team that will work with me on the School Messenger communications is the secretaries at each of the schools, because they know these families best. They're the ones who are sending these communications. So we'll work together to decide if Friday afternoons at 1 o'clock is the right time, if email is the right vehicle, if our layout needs to change. Those are all things that are currently being evaluated.
To me, that's a failure, total failure for communication. If you're not getting, you have parents that just aren't engaged in email, enough parents. So if you're sending important communications by email or by this messenger, it's just not working. So I understand everyone has a different method for their communications, and we're not going to get everyone to use email or messenger. So if we have that many hits on a website and that many hits on a Facebook page, then I think maybe we need to utilize those two venues for important messages and put them out there.
Yeah, thanks.
As a constant place for people to know this is where something's always going to be, and you can always go here to find your information and still provide this as an alternative. Maybe we have too many ways to reach people, and it's just not working.
Don't we have about 1,500 high school students, though? So if you've sent 2,882, probably one went to a father, one went to a mother, and when one opens it and talks to the other one may not open it. I don't know that this is entirely a failure, but I think it needs some more investigation to see what are we missing, because it could be a failure and it might not be.
Yeah, like I said, I need to evaluate compared to other districts. Janet, you bring up a really good point, and that is, most, if not all, of what is in those weekly bulletins is available on the website. As a matter of fact, all of the weekly bulletins are housed on the website at each of the school sites.
Right, and you have to dig and dig and dig to find them, where if you had everything in a central location, where even the community, and not just parents, but the community knows, I can go find out right here without, digging.
Yeah.
And
And that
I
might
bet
be
1,000
why-
of those hits that you have on our website are from me.
Right.
Because I'm digging everywhere. I go to every single school. I go staff here, there, to look for everything. And if I knew there was a central place to go to find everything going on in one place, I'd be happy.
Well, then you probably wouldn't open the email.
Aren't parents asked what form of communication they want at the beginning of the year? Don't we fill that out on those forms?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, and
that's what parents asked for.
But they don't always do it, though. If you had just one central place where they knew it could always be there.
And just to kind of, if we go back to Doreen's data, email, the bulletins was the #1 request from parents. So that was the feedback coming both out of the survey and the focus groups, that this was one of the most important vehicles to gather. To Janet's point, it is difficult because not everyone said that, And so you also don't want to create a triage of overload for them. So I do believe, Christy, you have some parent focus groups that are going to come up to kind of try to get at, before we go any further and add layers to this by looking at things like apps that are in other school districts, what are the best vehicles and for which types of information? So that, to your point, Janet, if I'm looking for information that updates this, I know it's going to be here versus I would get that in an email. And that's the challenge yet of the longer term work to do around this particular kind of audience, because it's the audience with the greatest variation in desired want.
So for the Facebook is just one district page, or does each school have a Facebook?
Right now, we have a district page and we have a high school page that are both very well administrated. Jordan Hine and a couple of other leaders over at the high school do the Facebook page for that school, and then I work primarily on the district page. We do have 3 schools who have, elementary schools, excuse me, who have Facebook pages. One, Countrydale, their PTO has their Facebook page. So that too is all work that I am doing to bring that all in line. We need to have dedicated administrators of those pages at each of the locations. So that's work that's being done.
So, and where's that at as far as the plan? I mean, you haven't really done any work at this?
Yeah, so it actually is a bullet that comes up here in looking ahead. So thanks for the segue there. So staying within these 3 lanes regarding staff communications, I am working with principals to identify a group of staff who can provide, feedback on the newsletters that were distributed, those 4 newsletters that I showed earlier this evening. I would like to get information from them regarding, was it easy to read? Was it easy to download? What did they think of the layout and the content and the delivery of the newsletter? Same with the staff page at the website. Luann and I are already having discussions about really housing all of the information that staff need at that one place. So Janet, like you were talking about for families in the community, having the page where you log in and you're an employee and you get to all of the information you need. We have a good page so far. It's just we can make it better. So what to watch for down the road is a refresh of Franklin Find, and then, like I said, the updates to the staff page with the one-stop portal for anything that they need, and then just improved navigation and usability. Regarding our family and community communications, I am working to assemble the school secretaries to evaluate the content and the layout and the delivery of the weekly bulletins. I am going through all of the pages of the website and making notes and some decisions around how to better organize the information and keep it up to date. I have an improvement team that is being put in place, and we'll be tracking our Google Analytics to plan the refresh of content and navigation.
Who's on the improvement team?
I'm sorry?
The improvement team, who is that?
I have yet to bring them together. Yep. Yeah, so that's second semester is the time that I will spend working with an improvement team to make some of these informed decisions. Like I said, the last, 3-4 months for me have really been a discovery phase. I have been, working within the vehicles that we are utilizing and evaluating them and making my first impressions about, where we can go from here. Social media, to your point, Linda, we really need to bring all of our schools under one umbrella of a social media strategy. I have started the work on that. And like Valley said, we're going to form focus groups of families and community members late spring or early summer this year to take a look at the communications that we've done for this year.
So how often do you update Facebook or post? Do you have a plan, or what's your goal on posts for Facebook?
Yeah, we try to be on social media anywhere from 1 to 3 or 4 times a day. So, or at least during the week. So between the high school and the district, we are currently accomplishing that. I need to put in place, the consistency of getting the messages out there. Right now, the district social media, Facebook really is what we're working on. And we're getting an update out there about once a day, once every other day.
I mean, you have 3 lanes here going, one person. If we had to prioritize, do we really, the building bulletins, I don't know if that's where we want to put our efforts. I mean, the bulletin is there. If that time was spent on social media, will we get further? How are you prioritizing? Are these all equal? What do we just feel like we need to ramp up communication, and we need to be pretty deliberate in that decision. And I'd like to see, the effort from building bulletins go to social media or even the website.
Yeah, these aren't listed here in like a rank order. These are 3 areas that I have paid attention to, really focused on in the past months since September, and these are 3 areas where we're really going to push our focus and our efforts for the rest of this school year, and then make some informed changes moving forward. The building bulletins are a weekly communication that is really our primary, push to families. So I think, right now I feel like that is one that we should focus on.
But it seems to be working. And I guess my other question is, that's just the means, but what about content? How do we figure out what is the most important content to get out there that the public needs to hear? And how is that generated and evaluated and determined?
Yeah. So we are really working to push our content based on our coherence plan and the values work that we've done. There are different layers of communications, right? There's the tactical need to know. These are regular updates that we need to provide to our community and our families. And then there's the positioning level of communications that really give personality to the district and the people who are doing the work within the district. So for example, things to watch for longer term are interviews that would be videotaped and utilized, or placed on YouTube and Facebook and our website and, anywhere and everywhere that we can, to bring to life our story, right? We need to do a website refresh. We'll improve the navigation on some of those pages. I am working with Final Site to look at maps of usership maps of how people are perusing a page, for example. Do they start in the upper left, or do they go right to the middle, or what are the hot links that we see a lot of traffic on? So taking a look at all of that helps to inform how to focus or where to focus on refreshing the website. And then we will increase our social media presence. So there again, we've got, the layer of communications that are important updates, like regular daily updates, and then there's the layer of communication that is really telling our story, bringing out our personality.
I'm glad you brought up the content one. Do we monitor kind of what's going on out there a little bit? And not that we want to get in a chat situation about a topic, because those things can go sideways. But as far as what's going on out there and to be able to offer the information that needs to be offered to help eliminate some potential misinformation at the time, or is this just, here's what we have going on, and it's always a one-way from the district?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I do monitor social media sites. I have several flagged in my Facebook account. Janet monitors a number of the sites as well, but there's a Franklin Moms group, there's the Franklin Community Area page, there's a number of different pages where, you know, we're going in, we're looking at the comments. For example, we saw some concern that was posted on social media around October about bullying in the school district. And there were a number of parents, a handful of parents who were commenting on their children's experiences with bullying in the district. What we do is we take an approach where we try to address those concerns proactively then, or, you know, in our own communications vehicle. So we won't go on that chat and, you know, interrupt the dialogue that's happening there. But what we will do, and what we did do, for example, is we sent a letter from Dr. Miller focusing on the safety plan that is in place and the grant money that's being used to bring in more resources so that staff can help manage those types of situations. So we do use those learnings to inform the communications that are going out from the district. We don't get into a reactionary, you know, discussion in those forums.
Well, you mentioned that, you know, there's the day-to-day stuff that parents need to know. That's one layer. And then there's the personality layer. We'll tell our story. But what about, you know, the changes? What about the new middle school opening up? Was there any content in the last 6 months about that? I mean, I saw the 4K.
Yeah.
I guess if I were on the website, would I know that there's going to be a big new school opening up? I'm not sure I would get that impression if I...
Yeah, so in our weekly bulletins, we do provide information regarding the new programming at the middle school. There are plans to amp up the excitement around the middle school opening in the fall. Yeah, that's work that you'll see.
It's not on the front page of the website. You have to go under community, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, I agree, Janet, that I think it can be easier to navigate our website. And I know we did just go through an update to the website prior to my joining the team. I think there's some really great, I mean, it's a nice, it's a nice looking website, and there's some great usability to it, but I think that we can improve on some areas, so. And then I'll be working with district leadership or district administration to facilitate a workshop that will just focus on better defining our brand platform and our positioning, our district story. And then we would, you know, communicate that first to internal audiences and then external audiences. And this is, you know, further down the road into next school year. And here too, I mean, really what we want to do is bring to life all of the work that has gone into the strategic planning, the values work that's been done. We'll articulate the district story and our points of pride, and really just bring our school brands together under one umbrella. So that's what I have for you. It's a big job. You're right, Linda. There's a lot, and we need to prioritize. And you know what we're really doing is evaluating a year 1, year 2, and then year 3 based on that plan from Doreen Dembski. And I'm just, you know, working to get as informed as possible, as quickly as possible here in the past 6 months, and I'll continue to do that. I don't want to make changes for change's sake, and I don't want to push out anything or, you know, excuse any of the communications that are currently taking place until I, you know, feel like I'm making decision based on sound reason.
I guess, so a year from now, you're gonna, well, hopefully you're coming back in 3 to 4 months, is that correct? Or-
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if we really have a firm measure on, what's different 6 months from now. I mean, we look back 6 months where we were versus where we are here now. What will we point to as the differences? I mean, when I think about my experience in the communication, I think the website's pretty much the same. I think the school bulletins, I know where to find those. I'll take a perusal of those. I like the high school has an announcements page, which is always very interesting. But I guess, what else would you say, and you're learning a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but a year from now, what would be the big things that you think you'd notice and you could point to and say?
I think about cohesion. I think a year from now, if we have in place a strong website presence, we have in place a consistent Facebook presence, YouTube presence, and if we have in place a communications vehicle to our families that is effective and informative and relevant, then those would be the big things that you would see. I really want for anybody in our community to go online and see our black and gold and say, oh yeah, that's something from the district, I should take a look at that. I think the biggest and most visible thing that you'll see would be video content being developed and delivered. That's really a medium that garners a lot of attention and is a very effective way to tell our story. So that would probably be the biggest change, is a library of video content has been developed and utilized. Thanks very much for your time.
Item 8C is the review and discussion of the WASB resolutions. Mr. Nielsen is our delegate, and hopefully you had time to go over the resolutions. I know our directors and Dr. Miller did. And Dr. Miller, you conveyed to me that the administration is in approval of all the...
Right. Well, they are, with the exception of Resolution 19.03 on page 2. Mr. Milzer and I had some discussion on that, and I'll defer to him to just elaborate a little bit more about the context of that resolution and whether Franklin School Board wants to support it or not. So I think that would be one of the resolutions that we'd want to talk about a bit. The others, I would say, yes, we would support the other resolutions.
And then I had one I wanted to mention, but I didn't want to take away from you, Mr. Nielsen, if you
No,
want to start off anywhere.
No, why don't we start out with 3 and work our way through the packet for those that, I don't think we have to talk about all of them, but I think the ones that came up, certainly.
This one talks about student poverty and using different multipliers for the equalization aid formula and the revenue limits. You could really think of the equalization aid formula as taking poverty into account somewhat already, because it takes the value of the community into account. And if you have a higher rate of poverty, your value is not going to be as large. So I think there's some of that in there, not as much as they're looking for in counting students, and the revenue limit piece as well. It's a bit worrisome because this would not bring more money to Franklin. This would take money away from Franklin. And we don't know what the multipliers would be. Would it be, we would be able to count our students as 1, and students in poverty would be 2 or 3 or 1.5? We don't know what it would be. So In general, when you look at that statement, it seems like, well, this might be a good thing. I don't think it would be a good thing for Franklin, as it would probably take resources away from the district or increase taxes.
I think when we're approaching these resolutions, so many of the districts are speaking of their own districts when they're putting these resolutions out. So I think it's important that you do speak up when it's beneficial to our district. Which, if this one is being recommended by the entire WASB, though, we might not have a chance unless other districts do speak out like you're recommending that we do. So if you need to get more information from Mr. Mills, or if the board supports what you're recommending.
Yeah, you can kind of take the temperature of the room a little bit and see, because there's, I thought there were 400 some delegates in the room.
Yeah.
Probably more than that, so.
But I think it's worth speaking out.
Sure, certainly.
Are we all in agreement with Mr. Mills' recommendation? Yeah. Thank you.
So that student poverty is already kind of reflected in the current formula for equalization aid.
I would say that it is to some degree. It isn't to the degree that they're looking for, but then I don't know how far they would take it. What would it take to put students in poverty on an even playing field with students that do not come from poverty? And it worries me what that number might be, and the effect that it would have on taxpayers here as we see our state support eroded.
But when I read this, so top of page 3, there is an existing WASB resolution that does support student poverty as a factor in how state aid is calculated. This is about the revenue limit. So doesn't it allow districts to spend more if they need to address poverty? Is this different than the previous one in that way?
It's different in that it operationalizes both of those. They could get more money before, but they weren't spending it. And in this case, it takes both sides of the equation, and then we would be losing money in that case. If they were able to spend additional local tax dollars on that, I mean, if that's the way it worked out, that would be fine, because it wouldn't affect other districts. They would be allowed to spend more. So if that's what they mean by this, and that's something that you wouldn't know until you're having a discussion of it, I guess, then it wouldn't affect other districts, and it would be fine. If it's used for both of those and there is only one pot of money, then more money will flow to those districts.
Well, I think it does kind of try to clarify that. It would not be able to spend any additional aid unless its revenue limit adjusts in a similar manner. So I think it's doing what you're saying, that this
They not only get the extra money, which takes money from us, they're able to spend it. So it's kind of a technical clarification or a technical correction of an error, I think, in that they thought that if they changed the equalization aid formula, it would take care of it. And what they're coming back and saying is, no, they're getting more money, but they can't spend any more money because they're not being counted that way in the revenue limit.
they're trying to fix the existing.
They're trying to fix the
existing resolution.
Right.
You should make an amendment, tell them maybe not, you don't even agree with resolution 2.20 then?
Mainly 2.20.
You're opposed to that?
Right. I could think it through, but, I mean, if you made the change in the revenue limit and not the equalization aid formula, they would be able to raise local money.
Correct.
For that purpose, and it wouldn't affect others, I guess. And a lot of it comes down to what's the multiplier. We don't know what the multiplier is.
Or do you have a range that you would find acceptable versus unacceptable?
No, I wouldn't want to supply that. I'd want to hear what it is, the research is that they're talking about. Is it 1.05? You know, some things wouldn't make a huge difference, but when you start getting into 1.5, counting students at 1.5. Can you imagine how much money Milwaukee would take in and how much we would lose? Yeah.
Okay. And then the one I had was page 8, Resolution 1912, which is the politically correct Indigenous Peoples' Day, which I don't understand why WASB would support this, because Columbus Day is still an official federal holiday. Only 4 states support Indigenous Peoples' Day: Alaska, Minnesota, Vermont, and South Dakota. Wisconsin is not one. So until either our state accepts it or the federal holiday switches, why would we support this? It's not supported by the state, so I don't understand. Already, Columbus Day is observed in our...
This is Columbus Day?
Columbus Day is observed as a supported, school-observed day. So they want to switch that from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples' Day, but it's not supported by the state of Wisconsin, so I don't understand why they want to do that. If we supported it in the state, fine, but it's not supported, so it just doesn't make sense.
See what they have for discussion.
Yeah, you'll have to see.
I don't know if we want
I
to-
think Shorewood might have brought this, but I'm thinking it might have been Shorewood. I would have to delve further. But if the state supported it, that would be different, but it's already on there as Columbus Day as supported by DPI. So it's just a politically correct resolution.
Is there more information on it in the packet?
No.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause it doesn't
maybe
say
in
it's
that
October
one, but
12th.
not on
Yeah.
here.
Maybe there's more in here.
It might be, you could see who submitted it
Yeah,
in that
okay.
one. I don't have that,
Because it made it from here to there.
which surprises me since
Yeah.
the state doesn't support it.
Yeah, so there may be more information in here, Mr. Nielsen, that you could refer to. I can look for it.
I mean, it also says the state statutes governing general school operations currently designate 21 special observance days.
And that is Columbus Day, already supported in the 21 days.
21.
But how do you know this is not a new day and that, this is Columbus Day?
Columbus Day is already one of the days.
No, I think it is, they're asking for another one. No, is that how you were thinking, or you think?
They would both be observed on October 14th simultaneously as Columbus Day and Indigenous People
And it doesn't
Day.
say that. So if that's what they're asking, then okay, if that's what they're
Because
asking.
we receive a list of observance days from DPI that the schools read an announcement to. So the way I read this, that would be, this would be an addition to that list.
An addition.
That's what I thought.
The date Indigenous People Day would be set by Department of Public Instruction and could coexist with Columbus Day. This came from Janesville.
Oh, from Janesville, so that's further in the notes.
It's page
Okay.
39 in the larger packet, which you may or may not have with you, but that's what's indicated
Gee, I
here.
don't know how I missed that one line. 39 in the larger package.
Yeah, there's only,
Okay, I was only looking at the smaller pack, what was on here, so, all right.
I mean, I just, okay.
And then why doesn't, if we're,
I'm out. Go ahead, what?
well, the state should just accept that then, since we are a state with indigenous people.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that is just, would be a official position by the
Right.
WASB to approach the legislature.
All right.
So
Thank
how did you guys feel about 19-14? Which kind of lays the groundwork before you get to 19 dash, I think it was 18. I'm always a little leery when I talk about being exceeding revenue limit, just cause, whereas right now, to exceed a revenue limit, unless I was reading this wrong, is that you need a referendum to exceed revenue limit.
Well, there are exemptions, right? Isn't some of the facility things are exempted too? Or energy saving, yes, they've had exemptions before.
That got closed.
That got closed, yeah. They have had exemptions before, though.
The Blue Ribbon
Yeah,
but
Commission,
this would be a new one.
is this part of the Blue Ribbon?
yeah, do you
Tim,
remember?
what are you talking about?
19-14, it's just talking about mental health revenue limit exemption where you'd be allowed to exceed the revenue limit for
Right.
mental health related services to create a new fund. So now it creates a new fund, and so first they lay the groundwork to exceed revenue limit, and then they talk about in 1918 licensing clinical counselors, and that would fall under the mental health services, which, not trying to limit mental health services, I was just curious to get the feedback on, about the ability to exceed revenue limit by just using that.
I had problems with 1918 all on its own.
Yeah.
Well, 14 lays the groundwork to allow, well, I mean, to allow it to
Sort of.
exceed the revenue limit, sort of.
Yeah, but 18 is talking about licensing.
So we can't have clinical counselors in schools unless they have an educator license? Is that what it's saying?
No, I think they want to be able to just have an educator's license, and that would be sufficient, the way I read it.
To be a clinical counselor in the school?
Yeah. So you go through, you get the education to be a counselor, but you don't have all the licensing. My daughter is a psychologist, but to get the degrees is different from getting the licensing. All the hours you had to spend with a professional, and you had to pay for those hours, was just too much for her to handle. But she has all the degrees, and what they're saying here is that, as I read it, is that you give them an educator's license, and then they can come in and be a counselor. They have all the education and ability to do it. They haven't been licensed as a counselor.
But you're giving them an educator license, not a
Yeah.
counselor
Yeah,
license. I don't get that.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Well, what is the current situation? Can we have clinical counselors in schools?
We don't employ clinical counselors
But could
to
you?
provide services to students. This is a new, to me, kind of area, clinical counselors, and I think the intent is to provide that in the school setting for kids, right?
Right.
So it's an area that I think I need to get more information about, see exactly what they do. But in order to work with the students in our school setting, you do have to be licensed by the Department of Public Instruction.
But if you're going to get an educator's license, I don't think you should be.
This seems to be kind of goofy.
Yeah, counseling.
Yeah, so I think it speaks about the program at Marquette. They just opened a master's degree program in clinical mental health counseling. So I think this is rather new, so we need to get more information about this.
Before we support this. Are you open to?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to kind of hear from you guys, but, again, I think that with being able to exceed the revenue limit with regard to mental health-related services, now, you'd be able to, through this Southern DPA licensing clinical counselors, be able to have this included in your budget, and if you needed to exceed the revenue limit to be able to do this, you'd be able to do that, because now we can exceed the revenue limit for mental health-related expenses. That's kind of how I was connecting the two. But
I think it sets a scenario where you don't have to, and there's places where this is pretty important, and they can't afford to do it within their operations budget. We do know that we're kind of getting to crisis with kids needing mental health services. So these are things with positive intent.
Right.
And we all know that many of these will not happen, to be honest with you. So that's my position. I think the intent is positive, and that's why I would support them. And it doesn't mean you have to tax more for these things, but there are places where I believe that's just the only way they're going to get this support to kids.
I guess I don't see them all tied together.
Yeah.
I see that particular problem with the clinical counselors.
Yeah.
Maybe a good way to account.
Need more information on that.
Yeah, the intent, I don't think is clear.
I think 1918 is something that's going to have some floor discussion.
Okay.
I would certainly
All right.
think that would, and I'll bring back what that was all about. Absolutely.
I had a little heartburn with 1910, but I always do, when you're talking about losing money to private schools because of vouchering. And my opinion on this is, if we've got a good school district that's doing the right thing, we're not going to lose any students and we're not going to lose any money. So if you as a school are having some problems, get your act together. Build a better mousetrap. Okay, I'll step off my soapbox now.
Yeah, all districts lose money to fund these programs. So depending on which program it is, it's taken right off the top before we get our money.
But there's something you're not delivering that these people are going elsewhere.
It wouldn't matter if we had any students leave. We still lose money. For some of these programs, it's just a calculation by DPI and a percentage used against our equalization aid. Some of them you're losing money because someone left. But there's also a layer of this that is just a calculation that they take money away from us.
Let me give my absurd example. Start teaching religion here at Franklin, and they won't send their kids off to private schools because that's where they get their religious training. I understand that can never happen, but you would bring all these kids in and you would get all kinds of additional money. What are we missing? What are we not offering? Because I hope it's not strictly, well, actually, I hope it is strictly religion that they're leaving for. But if there's some other reason, how do we meet their needs?
Yeah, for some kids, that's the case.
Okay. Now can I step off my soapbox?
Well, I guess if anybody has any other comments that come up after tonight, feel free to send them my way.
Okay, item 8D, scheduling of the special meeting of the electors, Dr. Miller and Mr. Milzer.
So in furthering the work around the Luxembourg property, Mr. Milzer and I have been meeting to discuss process and how that can move forward. So I'm going to defer to him to describe what it is we need to do next in moving forward with that.
Well, one of the contingencies to move forward on that is having a special meeting of the electors, which we're looking at scheduling for 5:30 p.m. on February 13th prior to the board meeting that night. And the function of that meeting would be to authorize the district to purchase the property. It would be just a one-item agenda. And it's part of what the district needs to do to purchase the property. It's one of the steps we have to go through, and it's one of the contingencies of the process.
So all I'm doing is looking for the motion to schedule the meeting. So I'm looking for a motion to schedule a special meeting of the electors for February 13th, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. for the consideration of authorizing the purchase of land. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Well, it was a motion by Mr. Nielsen, a second?
Certainly.
Second by Mrs. Larson. Any discussion?
And is that would that purchase have contingencies, or would it just be up or down?
The purchase has contingencies. This is just one of them. I mean, we would need rezoning, a survey, the environmental audit, and there's a number of contingencies, but this is one of them.
I guess I'm not sure how it's a contingency. We can't buy it unless we say we want to buy it, or we can buy it unless we have authority to buy it? So what do
Right. You can't buy it unless you have authority to buy it.
And would our authority be given to you based on the other contingencies being completed? I mean,
It's up to the city,
it's up to the city
for the zoning.
Well, and I'm wondering what happens when? Wouldn't you have those in place first, where everything is in place? Now you just need the authority to go and buy it.
They're not contingent on each other. They're all separate pieces that have to be satisfied in order to purchase it. So they're all kind of working at once. The survey is going, the environmental work is going. We just got the paperwork for rezoning, and this is another piece. So it's kind of all moving at once.
And who sets the contingencies then? I mean, who determines these are our contingencies?
The city, for the most part.
Yeah, it was, mainly working with our attorney on what we would need to purchase the property and use the property.
And do we have a use, or is that's the discussion for the meeting?
No, it's not an agenda item for tonight.
Right,
So we're
tonight.
just setting
That would be
the
set the meeting, okay, all right.
So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then, item 9, school board liaison reports. We have personnel and policy, policy 5610, selection of Wisconsin Academic Excellence Scholarship recipients. Mr. Nielsen.
Thank you. This policy is up. Last it was reviewed was about 10 years ago. There were a couple of changes that the administration recommended regarding the academic excellence and scholarship recipients. There was change in the credits that for graduation requirement made a number of years ago, so that change is in here. And then there's an order for the tie-breaking factors that wanted to be highlighted in priority. So anything else?
Yeah, unfortunately, the 36 courses should be 40. So if you could make that edit, that should have been in the draft.
So 20 credits and 40 courses?
Right.
Okay.
So then I'm looking for a motion to approve revised policy 5610, along with the revision made right now by Dr. Miller with the 40 courses for selection of Wisconsin Academic Excellence Scholarship recipients. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Larson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9B, board liaison reports. Are there any reports tonight?
Yes, we did have an Education Foundation meeting, the board meeting, and successful fundraising event for the auction. The foundation is, unfortunately, Sherry, their executive director, her husband has a job change, so that position is turning over, unfortunately, and it's, I know.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe not. Maybe.
Okay.
That's still change, possible.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right, so that was reported. They are going to be increasing their scholarships to 10,000 coming up, and the 2019 budget coming up, so there'll be more scholarships given out. And that's all that I'll say right now. And it's, the board is kind of churning a little bit again, but that's part of the beauty, I think, of it, is it pulls in community members, and I hope that the administration continues to value what they do in keeping us connected to the community.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports? Okay. Then we have school and community engagement visits. Do we have any of those? I have some. I went to the Forest Park Middle School Student of the Month breakfast in December, and I attended that with Mr. Reuter, Mr. Niziak, and the literacy teacher, Mrs. Josephson, and of course our 7th and 8th grade students and their parents. And that was a very nice event, although I think the students were looking forward to Christmas or winter break. Immediately after that, I went to the Forest Park Middle School Immigration Interview Day. Our 8th grade students had been learning about immigration, and they had the opportunity to interview immigrants from our community who had gone through the process and learn about their experiences. And that also included immigrants that were members of our FHS class. And one of them had just recently immigrated 3 months prior to that. So I sat in on interviews with immigrants from Vietnam, Colombia, England, Palestine, Brazil, India, and Dubai. And the students had very well-prepared questions, and they recorded the process, and they were very respectful to the immigrants that they were interviewing. And they made really good connections with our immigrants, and our teachers, Mr. Brandis, Ms. Galetta, that's how you pronounce it, Galetta, and Mrs. Scheer, they did a very good job planning the event and combining social studies and literacy. And I do want to say that some of the connections the students made with our FHS students, especially from India and from Dubai, they were really interesting, especially our student from Dubai talking about discipline, how they don't have detentions in Dubai. They're only disciplined by their parents, and that was really interesting. And then one student being interviewed, interviewing with the immigrant from India who had family in India, he just was so, intertwined with the immigrant student, just that connection because his family was from there, just such a good experience. And then the immigrant from England, who happened to be the mother of one of the teachers there, she's from England, but she had traveled first from Poland, and her father had been to Siberia, and it was just such this long story, and just so intriguing to listen to all the difficulties she went through to finally get to the United States. So a great learning experience for those students. And then we also had the Volition Youth here at our last meeting who presented to us about the electronic cigarette vaping ordinance. So they did go to the Common Council, and that was approved, and they were very excited about that. And then I attended the signing of the ordinance with the mayor, and each of the students stood up there, and the mayor signed, the M for mayor, and then, the O and all this, and then he gave them each the pen, and then they each got their picture taken with the mayor, so that was exciting for them also. So, that was any other? Nothing? Okay, great, all right, thank you. And that's it. Item 10, closed session. I'm looking for a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 sub 1 sub D for district administrator self-evaluation and review of administrator performance. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Larson.
Aye.
Mrs. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Nielsen.
Aye.
Mrs. Witkowski.
Aye.
I say yes.
Motion carries. Do we need a session at 9:40? And I think we have the audio on, yes? Okay. Yes, we do. Okay. And there was no action taken in closed session. And item 11 is the school board meeting debriefing. Do we have any comments?
I really like hearing the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Having kids in the meeting is always fun.
And
Seeing them engaged, that's good.
it's a little late, so I guess we don't want to get into our core values or anything tonight. But, yeah, that was good. So, future agenda items, we have school improvement plan update scheduled for January 23rd, audit report, January 23rd, open enrollment seats, January 23rd, long-term capital facility projects, January 23rd, and then Pleasant View Elementary School presentation, February 13th, special meeting of the electors that we voted on tonight for February 13th at 5:30 PM. And then state convention reports for February 13th, 2019. And then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 9:42.